Good evening. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
J Street.
And welcome to The Source. Today we're glad that we can report some good news to you all for the city of Wilmington based on some of the hearings that I'm hearing from everybody in the city that crime violence is down in the city. Aren't we glad about it?
Is that a joke?
A joke. No, violence is down in the city.
Yeah, we had a murder Monday morning at 6:45 here again in close proximity to the William Hicks Anderson Center, and a shooting in Eastlake last Sunday. What are you talking about?
Oh, maybe I missed the memo. I thought that I've heard last I was hearing people were saying that it's all down. So you're saying that there was a murder in the city last week?
I'm saying there was a murder in the city Monday morning at 6:45. As a matter of fact, a resident from Quaker Hill put out that it was in very, very close proximity to him while he was out walking. And again, I'm gonna reiterate, it's at 7th and West. That's 3 blocks from Hicks Anderson Center. And if you look at the number of shootings in the city, there are more shootings within the city of Wilmington in close proximity to the William Hicks Anderson Center than anywhere else.
Okay, that might be true, but then go ahead, you guys.
And just to give a little background about those two shootings, so the first one took place on Sunday at around 8 p.m., and that one was a 18-year-old who was shot on East 24th Street in the Eastlake area, and then on Monday at 6:45 a.m., a 43-year-old individual was shot to death over by Hicks Anderson. So the gun crime is still happening, and I feel sorry for the family of the one who they've lost someone as we continue to try to combat this gun violence here.
But the fact of the matter is, even if you were correct, and what people are telling you is correct, the fact that in overall, compared to last year, shootings and murders are down. But it's not a result of anything that the city has done to decrease the violence. What have they done? Nothing's changed. Policing methodologies are still the same, patrolling is the same, and they haven't added any intervention techniques to my knowledge.
Oh, that's really where I was trying to go with it, is that, with the numbers being down, what are we doing differently?
We're not doing anything differently. You've got an $8 million proposal on the table, and unfortunately, it appears as though the folks from Newark, New Jersey, as we had talked about last year, are going to be contracted to come in, give advice, and make their recommendations, and then that's going to be implemented, but we still don't know, separate and apart from the contract for this New Jersey firm, which is around $100,000, I think I'm correct, what the money's actually going to be spent on. There was something reflected in the public press that indicates that they're going to add additional interventionists under the current team of interventionists that they already had, but that's all I know, and we still don't know where the $8 million is going to be spent.
Who's leading the effort, if any of you know? I mean, this incentive, we bringing in this firm from Newark, who's leading this whole parade?
Well, it's the mayor's idea, so the mayor or whoever he assigns to that task is going to be the ones who ultimately are responsible. But Kobe has some insight, I believe, and at least some speculation as to what's really driving this.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was multiple proposals put on the table. There was organizations that wanted to come in from Seattle that actually saw a reduction in crime, right? And on the show I talked about how Newark has seen an increase right, since this group was actually formed. Overall, the numbers they use, right, the last 10 years, it is down. But since this group was formed, the numbers are actually up. So that's what I like looking at when I look at what a group's track record is, right? But this is being driven by the mayor. This is being driven by Chris Johnson. And this is also being driven by some in the Wilmington delegation down in Dover, right? To get this group here instead of other groups. Now, also, it was a proposal on a table to have Carlton Mayers come in, who is a nationwide renowned attorney who deals with police reform. He worked with the Obama administration on policing reform. He has worked with other states to get things done, but they do not want to bring him here because he is not going to just say yes to the type of audit they want. They just want to audit the police and talk about how the police feel about community, where he says in order to do a true audit, you have to do the entire community because it's about community empowered policing, right? So you have to have those who have been affected by negative interactions with the police, you have to have the police, you have to have the lawmakers, and you have to have the general public in on this as well too, and they don't want to do that.
Oh,
well,
wow.
And I'm going to say it again. There's not going to be any significant or substantive change in the rate of crime within the city until a judge or judges compels the city to change its patterns and practices.
You know, I always argued with you about this whole litigation piece because I'm always for the streets, go out in the street. But I'm starting to now turn my course and begin to start saying that is probably the only way that you can get substantial and sustainable change is that we go through the litigation process, because what I'm finding is that some people will appease you for the moment and then they go ahead and do what they want to do. But I thought that maybe there was some new things going on in the city for the reduction in the crime.
But for example, in the McDole settlement, some policies and practices were supposed to change as a result of that settlement. It wasn't just a monetary settlement with the family. And we know for a fact that those policies and those changes have not been implemented. And it's really been business as usual in terms of their practices and what they're doing. So, you know, NAACP called for the chief's resignation. The Wilmington City Council had a vote of no confidence for the chief. The administration is not listening. You know, I'm the mayor, I don't make any mistakes, I don't do anything wrong. And the citizens of the city of Wilmington continue to suffer as a result of that part of his administration that obviously is not working well.
Yeah, I don't know, and I just, you know, I thought maybe we could talk today on a positive note about some of the positive new interventions that are going on, but it just appears that because maybe people are not shooting each other as much, then we're going to take the credit for there being a reduction. But if there's no strategic plan, then I guess that we're just wasting our time. So I'll move on to the DSU lacrosse team. That was really disturbing this week as it was finally revealed and what went on with their bus being stopped in Georgia. They were coming back from a tournament and their bus was stopped, and there was a couple comments, I'm gonna let you all talk, but there was a couple comments that disturbed me. One from that black sheriff who said basically, hey, they wouldn't stop because they were black, and I don't know.
Let's not be presumptuous. All of you in the audience doesn't read the paper, so we need to be clear about what actually happened.
Right. I want to get the Del State lacrosse team, women's lacrosse team, was heading back from their final game that was in Florida, coming through South Savannah, Georgia, when they were stopped by Liberty County sheriffs, right, and deputies. And they stopped them, and their black representative that they sent out at their press conference said, "Oh, our officers did not know the color."
What happened when they stopped them?
Hold on, I'm going to get there.
I'm sorry.
Did not know the color of anyone on the bus because, you know, it was just a white bus, a white coach bus with tinted windows, right? So they proceed to get on the bus because the bus driver was in the left lane, said that, you know, you can't do that, you got to stay in the right lane, but then proceeded to say that they were going to search all their belongings because they knew it was drugs there, right? They looked at who was on the bus and just presumed that they had drugs. These are student athletes, right? And the interesting thing is, everyone was quiet for it for almost 2 weeks. Almost 2 weeks, except for the girls. They were trying to reach out and get attention to this. They were trying to get help on this. Then the video came about, showing these officers saying, oh, we know there's stuff here. Tell us now, because if we have to search, then it's nothing we can do.
We can't help you. You can't help me anyway, but go ahead.
By the time they stepped off the bus, after just stopping them for a traffic stop, the police dogs were already there. And they went through each of those girls' luggage, pulled all their stuff out, threw their stuff out, had the dogs go through it, and guess what? They ain't find nothing.
But
no, they found a gift that one of the girls had received from her aunt that was wrapped, and asked her what was in it. She said she didn't know because it was a gift, and her aunt told her not to open it until she got back to school, and they opened it.
Oh, wow.
And gave it back to her.
Unacceptable.
Now let's.
This is racial profiling 101.
Okay, but let's the NAACP, the Delaware State NAACP, sent out a press release on Thursday, and basically it says, number one, this is the epitome of racial profiling. Number two, there was no probable cause for them to stop the bus. And the reason I say that is because under Georgia law, what the police officer said, the reason that he told the bus driver he would stop, buses are excluded. That's why he didn't get a ticket for the traffic stop.
Oh, wow.
So he had no business being stopped in the first place.
Okay.
Second, there was no probable cause for the officers to enter the bus.
Okay.
Third, there was no probable cause for the search or the seizure.
Right.
Because at the point where you take that young lady's gift, you approach her with it, and then get off and unwrap it. No, you have seized that. So there's no probable cause for anything. The press release goes on to cite the fact that those dogs that I hate, because you would have had to been exposed, go through what we went through in the 60s, and how the dogs were used to terrorize, humiliate, and degrade, had no business being brought on the scene. And the university itself is not harmless here because, and I understand that those at the university don't have experience in civil rights litigation and litigation, but when this happened on April 20th, by April 21st, you should have had your lawyers, if nothing else, go in and say, put a litigation hold on all the communication between the officers and the department, all the emails, all the texts, hold all body camera footage, all those things that next day, because you don't know what they have erased from April 20th until May 9th and probably afterwards. And everybody can be a Monday morning quarterback, but if this was done the way it was supposed to, it would have been reported publicly on April 21st. Second, when the only reason this got exposed is because the students put it in the student newsletter. At that point, people outside, the media outside, picked it up, and then they ran with it. Then when the university was approached, now they finally go forward with it. And the NAACP press release goes on to say, we appreciate the fact that the statement coming from the university president is made in good faith, but we appreciate that, and we appreciate the statements coming from the congressional delegation. However, all that is woefully insufficient in terms of the relief that these children are entitled to. So we urged, and I will continue to urge, just as the State Attorney General Kathy Jennings has done, but we were urged the congressional delegation to ask the United States Attorney General to do a full federal investigation as it relates to civil rights, profiling, and patterns and practices of police agencies. Second, the lacrosse team eminently qualifies as a class to pursue class action litigation. So we're urging that the university, with all deliberate speed, file class action litigation on behalf of that class. The class by itself should be the lacrosse team. Now, separate and apart from that, and I understand, okay, my best friend happened to be employed at the University of Delaware and had responsibility in athletics, especially for the football team. The university that they went to in Florida is 900 miles from Delaware State University. It's a 13-hour run.
I know you
And
are.
when the parent of one of the students said this would have happened to Notre Dame, no, it wouldn't have happened to Notre Dame. You know why? Because Notre Dame would have flown.
That's right, they would have flew, yeah.
Okay? And somebody better get up off their behind and put some money in the budget to see to it that these kids don't have to travel that far. It doesn't happen at the University of Delaware, and it shouldn't continue to happen at Delaware State University. Second,
Third.
no athletic team at the University of Delaware goes anywhere without a university administrator. The administrator is there to speak on behalf of and act on behalf of the university. These kids didn't have that. So folks need to understand that, and I understand there was a situation where there was no comparison between budgets in the HBCUs and other universities and colleges. That's not the case now. And the General Assembly is sitting there with more money than it's ever thought about. They don't know what they're going to do to spend it. Some money better be spent on making sure that all Delaware State University's athletic teams can travel, don't have to ride on a bus for 12, 13 hours. They shouldn't go any further than Virginia on a bus. And to make sure that there's always an administrator there to protect the children and speak for the university. And if you don't do that, then you're derelict in your duties. And send this to your state officials too, you're derelict in your duty if you don't fix what I just said.
Right.
Stop all this bus travel like this is the 60s and the 70s and you don't have any money, and make darn sure that you got an administrator traveling with our children.
But it's not just that. It is not just that. See, this goes even deeper than just being an HBCU. It goes to the equality when it comes to women's sports, that they are completely underfunded. They don't get the same opportunity that men's sports do. And this is coming from a former college athlete. They do not get the same.
You was all that? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
What you play?
I played rugby in college.
Yeah.
But
At a white college. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I didn't wear enough to play anything. I'm jealous.
But this is what a lot of women's sports teams have to deal with throughout this nation at HBCUs and everywhere. The fact is, if you are going to have to make them ride a bus, that bus should be wrapped with DSU all around it. Just like they do when they take the band somewhere, where they take the football team somewhere. Football team's not in season right now. Why couldn't they use one of those buses? So it goes to a deeper thing of addressing the inequalities that we see in women's sports. But what happened?
But it's deeper than that all the way around, okay? Because and the NAACP press release says this. It's not happenstance.
Right.
That you stopped a Delaware bus, okay, coming out of Georgia from a historic black college and university out of the home state of Joe Biden. That's not happenstance. And for the sheriff to say, well, we didn't know who was on the bus. Well,
You knew as soon as you opened that door.
okay,
That's right.
and
That's
you,
what I was
and you
gonna say.
also saw the bus driver's window is not tinted.
Right. And he's
You knew
black.
full well it was a
Yeah,
black bus
yeah.
driver with a Delaware tag on the bus when you pulled it over. So let's not make any
But
mistakes
once you pulled it over, see we don't want to get caught up in we didn't know who we were stopping. Once you and you've made this comment, once you pulled the bus over, you come on the bus, you see who's there. Now automatically there's no reason to believe that there's drugs other than the fact you got a bunch of black people on a bus.
But there was no reason for them to get on the bus in the first place.
I agree. That's another violation. It's reeking with violations. This should be one of the easiest cases for us to win as a people. But what constantly happened is this one got reported. You made some comments that were very, very powerful. Number one, how come it took this many days to even get to the public? How come it took this many days for us to even have to know what went on? These girls were traumatized. They were traumatized, and to my understanding, the way it all got out was through TikTok and a news press in their own paper.
But and here again, okay, the safety of these students should not be abdicated to the students themselves.
It can't be.
Okay, and at the point where this happened, the university had an obligation for the health and safety of those students to intervene and act immediately, and they had a responsibility to make it public immediately, and it happened on April 20th, and they don't make a statement until May 9th.
That's 20
days. It's outrageous, almost. And I'm sorry, it reeks of mischief, and it reeks of cover-up.
I don't know if I'm going that far, but hey,
what else?
I think it's a negligence. I do think it's a negligence.
At a minimum, it's contributory negligence, and there's a potential for it to be dastardly mischief, working toward a cover-up and concealment. But people don't understand. I went to high school with somebody, and when he was in high school, cops pulled up on him at 13th and Walnut, put guns to his head. And he went on, left out of here, went to Hampton, went to medical school, did very well. And he's 60-some years old now. When he left here to go to Hampton, he does not come back. The only time he comes back is for funerals and weddings, and then he leaves. And that's directly related to the Wilmington cops putting guns to his head when he was in high school. He can't stand it here, doesn't feel safe here. My point being, this is not going to go away from these children.
That's right.
Right.
They will be as old as me, and they'll still be talking about it. They'll still be dealing with it. And that aspect of it, and I know that there are lawyers and the NAACP and others that are going to see to it these children get checks.
And it was a lawyer, one of the girls called their father, and he's a attorney, not in Delaware, Georgia, but in Illinois, but he was on the phone with her the entire time. These officers were on the bus with them as well.
But they're going to get checks.
Oh, yeah.
But people need to be held responsible, and people need to be held accountable. And the university needs to take a serious look at its training and its policies and practices as it relates to when you take black children out of state, you have a special responsibility to protect their health, safety, and welfare at all times. And everybody can be a Monday morning quarterback. I fully understand that. By the same token, you have to learn from this, because our responsibility as a people and as leaders and representatives is to do everything we can to prevent future occurrences. So one, those children have to be, they're entitled to relief, and some of that relief is going to require a lot of money. But we also have a responsibility to do everything we can to prevent the likelihood of future occurrences. And so there's a dual responsibility, and in my regard, it's all our responsibility.
But you know what's going to be interesting to watch? I hear you. You're right. There needs to be some policy change, even at the university. There needs to be some clear understanding of what has occurred with those Georgia police officers. But this is what often happens. You said a check. A check is going to happen, but the value of black life is totally different than the value of white life. Had that happened, and I can't even see it happening, but had it happened with Caucasian children, each one of them would have had at least a $2 million a check.
But see, the harsh fact of the matter is, it's a diverse team, and there were white children on there, and they're going to be duly compensated as well. And you know, I'm looking at what happened in Florida with the collapse of the high rise. They settled yesterday for $1 billion. And I just know in my heart that we have a special obligation to see to it that they receive counseling, that they receive compensation, that folks in Georgia are held accountable, because the first thing should happen is, why does the lying sheriff, I didn't say lion, I said lying.
L-Y-I-N-G.
Lying sheriff still have a job.
Right? Because he has to be our token to be able, like some of these city council people, you got to make sure you keep them in the front to say what they got to say to the community they're speaking to.
Yeah, and my point being, people need to be held accountable, and the fact that the stop itself was illegal because the law that they referred to, buses are exempt from.
Yeah.
And why are any of those people involved still working?
If they could give him a ticket, they would have given him one. They knew at that point it was profiling. It was just that simple.
And
we can address it.
45 minutes later, you're free to go. Yeah. You should have never stopped me in the first place. Now, suppose you got a kid like me on the bus.
Oh, Jesus. Now we change it to behavior. All right, it went from there has to be drugs on the bus to we got a behavior problem. We got one of those Negroes who just won't act right. Oh, I'm sorry.
And the little girl said, okay, out of the mouths of babes. Okay, how does this go from a routine traffic stop till drug sniffing dogs going through our personal belongings? The question was asked, hasn't been answered. There's no justification for it. And here again, people have to be held accountable. And so all you local officials, when I continue to scream, holler, and curse about how y'all use these dogs, this is one of the reasons why.
Yeah. I felt personally violated when I went through some of the articles, hearing the young people share how their personal hygiene stuff, their feminine items were out, dogs sniffing, holding them up, and a lot. That is personal, and that bothered me. And that's why I feel...
No, look, carry one step further. You got a bunch of white men out there playing in the underwear of black females.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, you say it. That is exactly it. But
no need to be polished and eloquent about it.
Yeah.
See, you got me started. I said I was going to try to stay focused and not get emotional, but you bring it out, and because, see, people don't understand what Delaware State University means to me.
Yeah.
Okay? My father went to high school at Delaware State University because in the 30s, when you lived in Sussex County and you were a farmer and you black, you couldn't go to high school anywhere but Del State. He stayed on campus. I was on my way to Delaware State University until a guidance counselor told me she didn't think I could make it at the University of Delaware, so I cursed her out and said, just for that, tell them I'm coming. Other than that, I'd have went to Del State. My sister graduated from Del State, and my son graduated from Del State. So, you know, it's 3 generations, and I want that school to continue to thrive. But see, there's other things that go on, and I'm going to talk about everything here. I don't know how long the racetrack was there, but long before they had the races, the car races, Delaware State was there.
That's right.
But what people don't know is they don't do it formally, and the administration doesn't do it, but they whisper to the kids, that on race weekend, y'all need to go home.
Yeah. For that one
Okay,
weekend,
but the
September.
fact of the matter is, Delaware State, as a college, was there before the racing people got there. And because you brought all these people in on race day that you know are not going to treat people with color right, these kids have to go home. No, y'all need to move the race.
Period.
Move the race.
They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. That's too much money. And the color
Well,
kids ain't worth that
it's
kind
too
of
much money. But Delaware State was there first. Second, I've had a situation where I've gone down to Delaware State to commencement, and the Delaware State police got speed traps out on 13.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
they do it for
Okay.
homecoming too.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Now that I know for sure.
And that dastardly mischief needs to stop. And the second case, because when you have commencement at the University of Delaware, there are no speed traps in Newark. You got the Newark police and whoever they can get down, and not the Newark police, the university police out there directing traffic and making sure people can get in and out in a timely manner, and everything is in order. I'm not going to stop with just this traffic stop. All this inequality and mistreatment of students at Delaware State University has to cease. I think we need, as a community and the so-called leadership, to put all this together to make things better with Delaware State University. And I have some criticism of the university, what was done, what hasn't done, but I support them.
Yeah, most
okay,
definitely.
you know,
Yeah.
and I know somebody's going to see to it that they get a copy of what's being said here and elsewhere, and I just strongly suggest that they consider the concerns that I'm bringing up for the sole purpose of making things better for our children.
And you do have very, very, very valid concerns. And my career in Delaware started at Delaware State University as Dean of Students there, or Director of Campus Life. And one of the things I've learned is that that's one of the better institutions of higher learning. But we have some missteps. And I just hope that the missteps that have occurred with this whole scenario with these young ladies are corrected. And then also, some of the injustices and things that you have pointed out, as we are moving forward, Del State has come a long way. We have a long way to go. But I'm just hoping that we will be able to do a little bit better. Corey, was there anything else you want to say on that before we go to our commercial break?
No, I said everything I had to say.
And Brother Street, I'm with you 100%. This is nerve-wracking. It's nerve-wracking. But we'll be right back. And we're back. Well, Kobe, Street, we batting almost 100. I think it's 90%. But school board elections occurred on Tuesday, and we see a shift in the school boards.
Yeah.
What are you all happy? What's going on? Give me some update.
Overall, I'm extremely happy about the results of Tuesday night. You saw huge wins, not by big margins, but just statement pieces in Appoquinimink and Red Clay and Colonial.
What about Smyrna?
In Smyrna, all up and down the state. So some of the people who won that are truly about the educators, about the students, about the community, was Vic Leonard and Red Clay. He unseated incumbent Ashley Sabo. You had Nichelle DeWitt, who is going to be the only minority serving on the Appo school board.
Well, that's good.
You have
That's
Felicia
real good.
Diggins, who won down in Capital School District. You had Christine Smith, who was reelected to her seat in Colonial. And then on the other end, you had Dr. Keenan Dorsey,
Yes.
who was elected. He's going to be adding diversity to that
Yes.
board, joining Ron Handy.
And, well, before you go in too fast, not only is he going to bring diversity, but he's also going to bring an academic background that certainly
absolutely.
speaks to it in a wealth of school turnaround.
Yes.
So when you said his name, I just had to give a clap for him. Go ahead.
You have Betty Wyatt, who won in Lake Forest, which is by far one of our most conservative school boards. They're anti-CRT, anti-mask mandate. For her to win, that was huge. You had Chris Kearse, who won down at Q, who won in Smyrna, which was where one of two areas where the Republicans and Libertarians focused in heavy, and he was able to win there. The other area that they really focused in on was Milford. Unfortunately, Jalen Powell lost, but that was their center point. That was one of their races that they definitely wanted to win. And then you have Marcus Wright, who won in Seaford and keeps Seaford the most diverse school board in the entire state.
Yeah, but I didn't hear you say anything about Vic. Or did you say
Vic Leonard? Yeah, I started with Vic.
You started
Clay.
with Vic. Okay, in Red Clay. Yeah, I was very glad that he won as well.
So that's going to change the face of school of the Red Clay School Board. That leadership, who has been terrible leaders, is probably no longer going to be in power. Kathy Thomas, Jason Casper, and Martin Wilson. Those three have always been voting against policies that are truly rooted in helping the students there, especially the more diverse students, and not all those people are white. Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
Well, we know that. I mean, we know that it ain't always the color of people's skin, because we got some people I keep saying it, y'all, I know it gets on y'all nerve, on city council who are black and totally anti-black. So, but listen real quick. I've been hearing through the grapevine, this brother, and I don't even know him. His name Rick Jensen. He's on one of these talk shows. Why is he so critical of you colored people who get involved in these races?
Yeah, because we shouldn't care about school boards. What you're seeing all across the state is school boards usually have 1 or 2% turnout, right? We're seeing it now increase to 8, 10, 20% increases in places where people are starting to get involved. That means minorities are starting to pay attention to what's going on in their school districts. And he's really upset that people like Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester got involved. People like myself got involved. But yet he stayed silent on the Republican Party, who officially endorsed people, put it up on their website, put money behind these people. The Libertarian Party, the Patriots for a Better Delaware, who all put money into this. See, I just went and canvassed. I made phone calls and I knocked doors.
But the fact of the matter is, at the point where you're making somebody like Rick Jensen angry, that just means you're doing a damn good job. So I want to congratulate you. I want you to continue your work, because, you have these people for long periods of time who have done everything they could, and the word conservative, that's a nice word for diehard dedicated racists. Okay, and the fact of the matter is, for far too long have had too much influence about things that they shouldn't have. And when you're doing a good job and you just named off the district that you worked in and you had some success in, I just forewarn you, it's going to be a tough time next year, because you got two candidates in one district that they're going to go after, because they're going to comprise a majority and an effective majority going forward. But I'm saddened by the fact that our nation is so divided, and it has trickled down to our state, that we're just divided about how we educate our children. Children are children. And if adults will leave them the heck alone, they'd find a way to get along and work through the problems in the schools without all this unnecessary undue influence. They continue school pride and school concern for each other as fellow students, but all the grown folks won't let our children just be children.
Yeah, but one of the things that you talked about, this Rick guy, I don't know him, and
you act like you're missing something. You're not.
Oh well, it caught my attention that all of a sudden he's raving. He came to my attention because he's upset. He's angry that how dare Lisa
Who the
and this
hell
guy.
is he?
Who is he? I don't know.
Oh, no,
He's
that's my
God.
point.
I
Who
guess.
is he to think he's supposed to have some influence over what goes on in school boards.
Well, that's white supremacy. That's that's
He can speak
that
up and
high
speak out
supremacy.
and have his little race baiting show. But other people can't be advocates in the community and work toward getting somebody elected.
No, you said it yourself. That's the attitude. That's the mindset. The mindset is, I can do it. I can hide my hand and do all kind of crazy stuff, but you better not do it. You must stay out in that field and do what you're supposed to do.
In the field.
In the field.
Okay.
You better get that cotton right. Because if you do anything other than that, I'm going to criticize you and I'm going to beat you down. And I'm going to get some of your own.
And as long as there are people, generally, when you do the work that we do, when you're upsetting people and making them angry, I'm going to say it again, you're doing an excellent job. Keep up the good work.
I agree. Matter of fact, because I never paid attention. Again, I said it, and I no apologies, but I said my child is not in public schools, but I pay taxes. Okay? And I pay high taxes up in Bear for my child not to go to a public school. And when you start talking about some of the things that, the influences and the things that they're doing with the trajectory of the schools, I start saying, hold on, I'm an educator. I know this is wrong, this is unfair, and even though I don't have a child in the system, I need to make sure I have some say in who's setting the trajectory of our young people. And when we came to you all, we asked you, get out, vote, care about leadership. You delivered. And that's something I want to say today too. Thanks to our viewing audience. Because you delivered. You went out, you voted, and the results. I think of all the candidates that we were trying to get on the boards, only one didn't make it.
Correct.
Out of how many about was it?
9 others.
It was
10.
It was 10. He's doing better than Donald Trump. Well, we're doing better than Donald Trump. He just lost his first one.
Why is that a comparison?
Well, I had to do
He's
that.
doing better than Obama. How about that?
No, he can't do it. No, Obama is batting for 100.
No. He was 90%. Ain't nobody else got 90%
Nobody
of the
else.
vote.
Nobody else. But
this is why it matters so much. So our school boards here have the power to set the curriculum.
Yeah.
It's not our Department of Education like it is in other states. They're the ones who craft what our students are going to be learning. So if you want them to be doing better in school, if you truly want to look at student success rates, it starts with the school board and what they're teaching our students. And it's not just about what they learn from K to 12. It's about what they know going into college or going into trades to make sure that they are prepared to be active members of society. So that's why school board races are so important, and that's why we're going to keep pushing to get them, get more participation in school boards.
yeah, good job. I support you. One question I do want to ask: how long are the terms?
So just recently, last year, the terms changed from 5 years to 4 years. So they're 4-year terms. Now, some of these races were to complete unfinished terms. One thing about Delaware, all our school board members are unpaid.
Yeah. Well, that means they do it. I think you spoke to that last week. They do it because of their love, but some people do not.
No, but there's great debate about this, but I think being a school board member is one of the most important jobs there is, and I think they should be paid.
Right. Well, I agree. But what I'm saying is those who do usually run for these offices, some of them, if not most of them, do it because of their love for children in the educational process. Some of them do it for political reasons and create all the kind of problems. But I'm glad to hear that we're batting at 90%. So stay involved. You stay involved. Let's make sure that we try to change the trajectory of our children. The last thing I want to talk about in this last segment, and it's interesting, I am just an optimistic person. I thought that given the country's position, 66% of the country is saying, look, we believe that Wade versus Roe versus Wade is settled law, is settled. Through all three of the last three justices responded to all of the senators saying, hey, it's settled law. We hear about this coming out. Regardless of your position on the issue of abortion, we're talking about the whole settled law and moving forward, people's right to choose what they want to do. I thought that the Senate would say, yeah, it's been that way for 50 years. Let's just solidify it. Wow, wasn't I surprised?
Well, I wasn't. This is the same Senate that pit big corporations over the people every single day. And in the vote was on the Women's Health Protection Act. And in that, it would codify Roe versus Wade, something that Delaware did back in 2017. And of course, there's still ways that we can build on it to make it more accessible. But, you know, the Vice President Harris presided over the vote. And the vote ended up being 49-51 with all Republicans voting against it and Joe Manchin joining them. Now, I say this because one Democrat who was on the fence wasn't Kristen Sinema, it was Bob Casey from Pennsylvania. And Bob Casey has a long history of being pro-life. His dad was the Casey versus Planned Parenthood, the famous case. That was his dad who went up against them. So for him to come out and say that this isn't even just about abortion, but he believes that women should have a choice to do whatever they want with their bodies was key. That was critical. But the fact is, we go all the way back to what I've been talking about since I first started doing this show, is the filibuster. It is now a tool of oppression. Well, no, not now a tool of oppression. It continues to be a tool of oppression that these senators are going to continue to use. And they don't even do it in a way that it used to be back in the day, make them stand on the floor and have to stand there and talk the whole time in order to hold up the filibuster. But, you know, we have senators who still don't see the need to have to change it, at least to a talking filibuster. If you truly believe that something shouldn't get passed, you should have to stand there and keep talking until y'all can't talk no more.
Well, but y'all, I hear what you're saying, but I'm looking at the big picture. In the big picture, you started out the conversation by saying polls say 60-some percent, 66% of the American people, they think this way. But the fact of the matter is, those who are in leadership on the Republican side have no intention of continuing to let majority rule. And this begins the process, the interpretation and that opinion that was leaked, it's not only going to change Roe versus Wade, okay, but it's going to change rights in other categorical areas. Judge Alito's opinion said it only applies to abortion, but that's not true. If the way that opinion is structured, it's going to apply to anything they wanted to apply it to. Those interpretations of the Supreme Court that have been in place for 100 years, you can go back now based on that opinion and change anything you want to.
But here's one thing I want to add to that. One of the cases that could really be impacted by this is Lovering, the right for interracial marriages, right? Now, I'm not saying I'm going to marry someone, but I'm saying
you are going to marry someone.
I'm going to marry someone, but not a white person.
How you know?
How you know?
How you know? That's what I'm trying to say.
But I want to say this is interesting because one of the justices that are supporting this line of thinking is married to a white woman.
Oh, wow.
And that is Clarence Thomas. So by this whole thinking, and we already know him and his wife are very active in the Republican Party and trying to overturn American government. And, you know, her participation in the insurrection, right? Is this going to impact that case as well, too? And that's going to be very interesting because will you annul your own marriage?
No, he won't.
It's going to impact marriage. It's going to impact civil rights. It's going to impact anything they wanted to impact, because if you look at what's going on in those states, which are the states, the 5 states involved in election, they're setting it up now to steal the 2024 presidential election based on state law. And everything that was in the Voters' Right Act, that even the things that are left, now all that can be taken away. And they're going toward a system We're working to moving toward a system of apartheid in this country if democracy does not prevail, and they're taking a good shot at democracy not prevailing in all these state laws and now the Supreme Court law, which is huge. It goes way above and beyond and outside the scope of the Roe case. It can impact anything.
And this is why we can't just vote for the president, right? It is said that, yes, there is Democratic majorities in the White House, the Senate, and the U.S. House, but it's not enough. We have people who voted for the president and then left the polls. They didn't finish voting down ballot. So now it's not only the federal Congress, it's going to be local general assemblies that are going to decide this. We have to make sure when you go in that ballot booth, from the president on down, you need to be voting.
And we're back. Well, my favorite time of the show, Kobe's Corner. What's going on?
Yes. So first, I want to start off with an update from the White House about, a tragic milestone that we hit. So in America, we hit over 1 million people have died due to COVID since we first started this pandemic. And really, we went into shutdowns in March of 2020. But it started hitting America back in February. It's been a long, rocky road where we thought we were moving out of it, then back in it, then the masks were going away, now masks are coming back. Look, make sure you're vaccinated. Make sure you're fully boosted. Please stay vigilant because we're not fully out of this, right? But 1 million families are always going to remember this pandemic because they lost loved ones. That's 1 million seats that are no longer filled at the dinner table. That's 1 million smiles you'll never see again. So to honor those people, you must continue to hold yourself to a high standard when it comes to being aware of what's going on and trying to be as healthy as possible. And if that's simply by wearing a mask when you're out with crowd or you're going to be seeing family soon and you've been isolated, make sure you're still taking those steps that are needed. But also, now I want to move on.
Wait, before you go there, let me just say this, and I'm going to agree with Brother Kobe. I asked, and I said this to our congregation, you cannot control the people around you, but you can control you. I ask that you please wear your mask, wash your hands, keep your distance. Why? Because even those of us who are fully vaccinated, we can carry it and not know it because we are fully vaccinated. We don't want to harm anyone. Let's wear our masks until we have come out of this pandemic. Go ahead, Brother Kobe.
No, I agree with you on that. But now I'm going to move over to the legislative side of things, right?
Okay.
So here in Delaware, we saw one major bill pass last week. We saw one major bill pass last week, and that was HB 244 with House Amendment 1. That's our fines and fees bill. I've talked about it on the show before. It passed out of the House. Now it's over in the Senate Judiciary Committee. But this bill will cease suspension of driver license for reasons unrelated to driving to restore licenses to those who've been affected by it in previous already. For those who are in the system, will rid of fines and fees of children of criminal cases other than motor vehicle cases. And we'll get rid of particular problematic fees for using a public defender for probation and for counseling and arrest warrant. So it's just some of the things that add on to keep people in this cycle of incarceration and the cycle of our penal system. This helps them get out of it, right?
But does it impact what was a former policy wherein if a kid got expelled from school, he or she was not eligible for a driver's license?
So that bill, they're working on that in a separate bill. What
does that have to do with the tea in China?
It has to do with the fact that you take a kid, you expel him or her from school. The only thing you can do now is go to work. Well, how the heck am I getting to work and you won't even let me have a driver's license?
See, that's to hold the black and brown community down. That doesn't even correlate together.
No, anybody that's expelled. Because in a lot of ways, previous laws were not just. The fact of the matter is, in far too many categorical areas, we have been an anti-child state. And I say that historically because there was a period in time where we had the highest rate of juvenile incarceration in the country. There was a time when we had a suspension rate 2.5 times the national average, and that was a matter of policies and practices that were implemented across the state. And it took, here again, the ACLU and litigation to stop us from having the highest rate of juvenile incarceration in the country.
Yes, sir.
Next, I want to talk about a bill that failed in committee on Wednesday, and that was HB 235, the Homeless Bill of Rights. This bill has been around for multiple sessions and has always failed to get out of committee, but I think it's extremely critical because the bill provides a reporting mechanism through the Human Relations Commission and Division of Human Relations to be able to report discrimination based on housing status. It helps individuals experience homeless to ensure that all of them, regardless of your housing status, have equal opportunity to live in decent, safe, and healthy accommodations, healthy places. Look, at the end of the day, housing is a human right, right? We all need to be in somewhere that is safe and inhabitable to be able to succeed in life. So unfortunately, it failed in committee. All the Republicans were against it. And then 2 former cops were also against it. Larry Mitchell from the Ellesmere 13th District, and then Franklin Cook, who represents an area that has high homelessness that he talked about when he ran for office and how he had to deal with them when he was a cop, also went not voting to make sure that this failed in committee.
You said he not voted or he did vote?
He did not vote. So it's when you're in committee, there's 4 different ways. So you can vote yes, you can vote no, you can vote not voting, which means you just take no position on it, but it counts as a no vote technically. You just didn't want to say no. And then you have absent. So those 2 went not voting, and the bill failed in committee. Now, another bill that was tabled in committee was HB 396, and that has to do with double penalties in the state education system. It was introduced by Sherry Dorsey Walker, and what it does is if someone gets in trouble, if a student gets in trouble outside of school with nothing to do with the school, Attorney General letter is sent to the school the very next day, and the school can then decide what's the best case of action. Do we need to suspend the person, or do they need to get some type of disciplinary action? That is double punishment.
Or do they need to expel, just like I was saying,
Right.
which very often they do, have done, and will continue to do. At a minimum, you get an AG's request, you get an AG's letter in the school, you're going to usually be expelled, but at a minimum, you're going to alternative program.
Correct. So, what this bill does was to change that, except for felonies and certain, when it's an incident that involves something to do with the school, or with if the victim is in the school, the letter will still be sent to the schools. But as of right now, I don't think it was right that this bill had to be tabled. Now, I hope that the Education Committee is able to bring it back up, get everything answered that they need to be answered, and that this quickly moves over to the Senate and gets past the Senate as well, too.
What we're going to have to do, Cole, is put you earlier in the show, because I really appreciate what you add to our team and the concerns that you have and what you're giving, the information you're giving to the community. And I hate that you always at the end and this like we're rushing, but there's a lot of debate and stuff that's in my head right now. So we're going to change the order and put you in a little bit earlier, and then we're going to put some other stuff at the back end.
I just hope, Pastor, that everybody in this state realizes that at every government level, we have more money than we've ever had before. And in a state this size, there's no reason not to be able to eradicate homelessness.
We got the space right here in Wilmington to do it. We got homes that are Wilmington housing that is just vacant. It's just no reason. We'll be right back. thanks so very much for watching The Source today. I hope and trust that we have certainly given you the information that you need that is relevant and that will help you in your days to come. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
This is Jay Street.
See ya.
Take care, y'all.